Hello, welcome to yoga class. Hope everybody is doing well today. A couple of things you might want to gather before we get started. If you have a block, go ahead and grab your block. It's going to come in super handy. If you don't have a block, that's okay. But if you do happen to have even maybe just like a squishy ball or something that you can put between your legs to squish into, we're going to use kind of that concept of like squeezing our legs with an object. The other thing you may want is a strap. And if you don't have one, a belt works well, a towel. There's lots of things you can probably find around your house that you can use to kind of loop around your foot with. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's class is all about spending a little extra time with the postures. We're going to slow it down and just spend a few more breaths than maybe we typically would in each posture to really get to know it a little better, to kind of walk that edge of discomfort. Where can I go with this? At the same time, always know that you don't have to stay in the posture for the full amount of time that I am. You need to always adapt the practice to your needs, not the other way around. So if you only want to stay in a posture for a couple of breaths while I'm sitting there holding it for 10, do what needs to serve you. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start in child's pose. So come onto your mat, bring your knees a little wider, feet together, push your hips back, arms long in front. And in child's pose, just start to tune into your breath, dropping into your body. Maybe sending a little extra breath to any spots that feel a little tight or uncomfortable. Then we're going to start to engage a little more fully with our breath. And what I want you to really think about here is expanding into your back ribs as you take an inhale. So see if you can take such a full inhale that your entire rib cage expands out. And you'll end up feeling a nice bit of a stretch through your back and into your ribs. Find that full inhale, top of the inhale, hold. See if you can just get a little more stretch in your back ribs, and then let it out. Do a couple more like that, really focusing on sending that breath into your back ribs, finding some movement. Now, if I actually put my hand on my back, I can actually feel my back expanding with my inhales. Soft release with your exhales. One more big breath in, expanding into my back ribs. And this time with my exhale, I want to exhale with a little more force. That exhale is so full that at the bottom of it, I can feel my ribs drawing in, my core engaging. So one more like that, big inhale. Engaged exhale. And release. Bring it on up. You can wiggle around. I'm going to come all the way to standing. So just in that, just tuning into our breath, we're already starting to feel a little more freedom in our body, especially when we find that expansion into our ribs. So take a second here, bring your feet just a little maybe just about hip width apart, toes pointed forward, and then lift all 10 of your toes, spread them apart as far as they can go, and then from your big toe, take every little toe down to the mat so you have maximum toe spread. And I'm feeling the base of my big toe and the base of my little toe kind of doing this spreading apart from each other. From there, I'm also feeling my heel, so I have this tripod of my foot engaging. We want to keep that. We're going to start to explore a little bit of where our weight is centered in our body. So take a second and close your eyes. And I like to do this with my eyes closed because then you don't you really have to tune into what your feet are feeling. So start with your eyes closed, just start rocking back and forth. Noticing as you come too far forward, your toes will really grip tight to keep you from falling forward. And as you go back, they'll lift to kind of keep you from sending over backwards. And just find this little rock back and forth from heel to the tips of your toes, shifting your weight. And then start to find a spot where you're not too far forward or too far back, but feeling like you're very centered on your feet. And then you can go ahead and open your eyes. From there, notice if your pelvis is stacked over your ankles, ribs over pelvis, shoulders over ribs, neck nice and long. And then just take a deep breath and notice where you might be feeling any tension. If you're still gripping with your toes, let them soften. You can kind of massage your mat a little bit with your toes. Maybe you're holding in your quads or your glutes. See if you can let that go. Your shoulders, your neck, your jaw. See if you can find softness in this position. One more breath here. And we want to keep this feeling of kind of loosey-goosey softness as we come up onto our toes just about an inch and then let it drop down. And this is a fun way to really kind of enliven your body. Just give it a little jolt. Now, if this doesn't feel good in your body, by all means skip it. But otherwise, it's kind of fun to just let yourself rise up a little bit and drop down. You should feel this vibration that goes all the way up to the top of your head. Really reminding us that the stuff that happens at our feet has connections that go throughout our entire body. And you won't feel the vibrations all the way at the top of your head if you keep a lot of tension. Just a couple more here. And this is just kind of fun. It's like a little massage. And release. Roll your shoulders out. Big inhale. Arms overhead. Exhale. Hands to heart center. One more time. Inhale up. Exhale. Hands to heart center. This time when you inhale your arms up, reaching long, pressing the ground away with your feet. Right arm comes down to your side. Left arm reaches over as we come over to the side into crescent moon. Keep pressing firmly through your left leg so that you don't end up kind of too much of a hip shift. The more you can kind of push the ground away here, you can keep this more into your side body. With your inhales, find that inhale that expands into your ribs, and find that exhale that allows you to soften a little more around it. We're going to go for a couple more breaths here. Find that big expansion, that stretch through your rib cage with every inhale. With your exhale, a little more depth. One more here. One more exhale. With your next inhale, rise all the way back up. One more inhale here. Reach up to the sky. Exhale, left hand down, right arm over. Take a big inhale. Expanding into your ribs, into your back, pressing the ground away with your right foot as you lean a little bit more to the side with every exhale. We're going to go for 4 breaths here. That was 2. This is our last one. Find the fullest inhale you can. Reaching even more. Come a little deeper with your exhale. And with your inhale, come all the way back up. Reach. Exhale, hands to heart center. Come to the top of your mat. We're going to inhale our arms up overhead, reach. Exhale, sending our hips back. standing forward bend. Pressing into our feet, lengthening through our spine. Ardha Uttanasana, half standing forward bend. And here we're going to spend a few more extra breaths with this position in particular. So I want you to think about pushing your butt back, lengthening through your spine. You can allow your knees to be a little soft. You don't want, especially if you tend like me, I hyperextend my knees sometimes. If you do that, definitely allow a little bit of softness in your knees. Pressing into your shins, maybe a block, maybe your thighs. Find that length. With every inhale, see if you can find that length that's kind of pulling my spine in the opposite directions. My butt's going back, my head's going forward. With every exhale, I'm reconnecting to the ground, reconnecting to my core. One more breath here. Then press into your feet all the way back up to standing. Big inhale, reach. Exhale, hands through heart center as we come down, Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Inhale, halfway reach. Exhale, hands to the ground. Step your right foot back. So we're in a low lunge here, with our hands on the ground and our back leg reaching long. We're going to take a few extra breaths here to really kind of refine this position. We're pressing firmly through our back leg. And our front leg, we're also pushing through our heel because we want to send our spine long. Collarbones wide, chest opening. Sometimes if you feel like you need a little more space here, you can come up onto a block. My legs are energetically squeezing together to really provide support for my pelvis so that my spine can grow ever longer with each breath. 2 more breaths here. Last one, big inhale. Exhale, drop your right leg down to the ground. Come up, half kneeling lunge. Take a second here to reach long. Squeeze into this back hip. And as you squeeze into this back hip, your glutes are going to engage. And you want to think about that, your gluteal muscle pressing your hip forward to lengthen the front. With that, we're going to start to bring a little movement into it. Coming forward, pulling back. Now this is coming from my hip, not my spine. So it shouldn't be like I'm dumping into my low back to make this happen, but I'm pressing through my hip. Couple more times here. Then find a spot where you feel a nice stretch in the front of your thigh. Reach up, arms go behind, interlace, chest opens. We're going to take 3 breaths here. Big inhale. Find that exhale that connects your core to your ribs. Last breath. Hands to the ground. Step back, plank position. Now we're going to do a little bit of back and forth with our plank and our cobra. So our first plank, we're going to sit here. We're going to hold it for 2 full breaths. Spine long, legs squeezing towards each other. Big inhale. Big exhale. Feeling your core engage. 1 more. And drop to your knees. Slowly lower down to your stomach. Hands by your chest, toes turned under. Before we even lift up into cobra, just lift your shoulders off the ground and think about your collarbone in the front getting wider. You want to keep this openness in the front side of your body. From there, I'm going to lightly press into my hands, coming up low cobra. There's a slight tone in my butt. I'm not squeezing, gripping hard, but there's like a little bit of a lengthening my tailbone to really keep my spine long. My hands are pulling back to bring my chest through. 1 more breath here. Exhale, release down to the ground. Press back up, plank position. This time we're going to hold plank position for 4 breaths. So big inhale, exhale. Here's our 3rd breath. And our last one. Lower back to the ground, all the way down. So we're staying with low cobra for now because it's going to challenge us to really tune into our back muscles when we do low cobra versus if I just push up and, go into this deep back bend. So I'm lengthening through my front. Big inhale, lifting up, low cobra. At this point, I could even just lift my hands off the ground. My chest is so engaged. If I want to, I can press in a little bit. It's my 2nd breath. I'm still dragging my palms back. 3rd. Last one. Lowering down, pressing back up. This time in plank, we're going for 6 breaths. So keep your legs squeezing towards each other. Keep pressing the ground away with your arms. Head lengthens. That's 3. Last one. Then drop to your knees, slowly lower down to your chest. This is our last time in Cobra. We're going to go for 6 full breaths here. So come up into your Cobra, lengthening out. It's 1 breath. And start to work on refining. If you're feeling this a whole bunch in your low back, see if you can send it up to a little more of your upper back. See if squeezing your legs together can really help with finding that. You should really be feeling the muscles of your back working. Shoulders are drawing down. If you notice this starting to happen, just remind them to chill out a little. Come on down. One more breath. Drop to the ground. Press back. Downward facing dog. We're going to go for 6 breaths here. So you get a chance, not only going to be walk your dog out, it's our first dog of the day, but really feel your way through your downward facing dog. Take a second to bend your knees. Press the ground away to lengthen your spine. And from that length, press your thighs back. Maybe your feet go down, maybe they don't. Maybe your knees straighten, maybe they don't. Not a big deal. We work with where we're at. And sometimes that changes day to day. Two more breaths. Still find that breath that expands into your back body. And this time with your inhale, bend your knees. You can step or hop back to your handstanding forward bend. Nope, you know what I forgot? Was our lunge on the other side. Set a left foot back, high lunge. Take a second here, just like we did on the other side, to press that back foot into the ground. Lift up through your fingers, open through your chest. If you find yourself more in a hunched over position, do yourself a favor, raise it up into a block. Wherever you're at, find that both legs are working. The front leg is pushing down through the ground, really supporting through my hip. The back leg is lengthening. My toes are pressing the ground away. My back thigh is lifting towards the sky. My chest is opening. One more breath here. And then step forward, standing forward bend. Press the ground away as you come up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Go ahead and grab your block. We're going to do some chair pose with the block between our legs. And again, when we practice chair pose today, we're going to do it for a little bit of a longer hold as well. I'm kind of going from 2 breaths to 4 breaths to 8 breaths. So remember, if you're like, I'm not holding chair for that long, that's okay. Do what feels good in your body. So if you have your block, if you have a ball, something, even a towel that's rolled up can work well. You want to put it between your thighs, kind of the long way, right in the middle. And you want to think about taking your thighs and rolling them back, almost like a Pez dispenser. So if I was, rolling in, the Pez would come out the back. So kind of just play with that movement of allowing your thighs to roll in so that the block moves back. So the opposite action of this would be wrapping my thighs this way and pressing the block forward. All right, we're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. These are the fun things that happen when you do live classes. So I'm going to pick up where we left off. Big. We let that go, right? Okay, so we were at going into chair pose, the block between our legs, and we were practicing the kind of turning in and turning out. So as we go back into our chair pose, we want to think about that turning in. So I'm trying to almost push the block behind me as I come into my chair pose. Big inhale, lengthen my spine. With my exhale, I want to feel that opposite reaction, that wrapping around of my hips here to really bring in that kind of muscular engagement that's really going to help me have a strong chair pose. 2 breaths here. Inhale, finding that length. Exhale, finding that connection to core. 1 more breath. Stand on up. For this next time when we go into chair pose, we're going to hold it for 4 breaths. So when you're ready, sitting back and down, pressing my inner thighs back as I extend my hips back. Spine is long. If raising my hands out here makes my spine do a weird bendy thing or a weird rounded thing, then just bring them into your chest. This is already on breath 2. Breath 3. Hips go back a little more. And breath 4. And come all the way back up. All right, this time we're going to go for 8 breaths. This is a pretty long hold, so adjust as needed. You can raise up a little bit if being down really low feels too intense. So starting, we're just kind of pressing that block back, keeping that nice tight squeeze on the block the whole time. Allowing your inner thighs to help you in this position. Breath number 1. How low can you go here and still hold your chair position with integrity? This is breath 4. 6, 7, and 8. Inhale. Exhale, release, standing forward bend. Let that one go. We still have the block between our legs. Just allow a second just to hang before we make our way back into plank with the block between our legs. So you can hop back, or if you can come all the way into a plank, take a second here, squeeze that block. Feel how squeezing your legs, engaging through your glutes, you might find a little more ease in your plank position. When we allow these big muscles of our hips and our core to really work, Sometimes it takes some of the work away from how hard it can feel in your upper body. Neck nice and long. 2 more breaths here. And then lower to your knees. Remove the block. Take a second here to adjust your clothes if you need to. Come on down to all fours. We're going to go into bird dog, and again, we're going to be holding it for a little bit longer time. Right foot steps back, pressing into the ground. Left arm reaches forward. Now, this could be a fun one to use your block again. One of the things I like to do is balance my block on my pelvis to really keep me honest about if I'm little wobbling my pelvis when I'm in this position. Reaching my left arm forward, lifting up this back heel. So with my back foot, I'm thinking like I'm pressing into an imaginary wall. My right arm, I'm reaching for something that's just right out of reach. And again, I'm finding those inhales that expand into my ribs, those exhales that connect me to core. I'm going to do 2 more breaths here. And this last one, arm's going to come out to the side, leg is going to sneak out to the side. It can be bent or straight. This is really going to challenge this block from tipping over. Holding out for 2 breaths. 1 and 2. Release it in. That last one should really be helping you feel these outer hip muscles. All right, other side. Left foot steps back. Again, if you're playing with the block on your pelvis like I am, you can readjust it here. Right arm reaches forward. From there, I lift my back foot, pressing my heel away. I don't want a big arch in my back, and I don't want my hips to be tilting side to side. Two more breaths here. On this last breath, right arm reaches out to the side. Left leg can be in, kind of up, or you can straighten out. See how that one made my block fall over, because this one's really hard to keep your pelvis steady at. So arm and leg reaching out to the side. One more breath. Release it down, remove your block if you have it. Push back, child's pose. Take a deep breath, let that one go. Long holds really build some fire in you. They really challenge your muscles and your stamina. And come on up, come down to your belly. We're going to go into locust pose. Feet long behind us. And for this variation, I'm going to have the tops of my hands on the ground, arms straight down by my side. Head on the ground, forehead on the ground. Big inhale. Lengthening through my spine. A little bit of tone, because I want to think of my tailbone drawing down slightly to support my lower back as I lift up. So right now it's just my chest. From here, I'm going to lift my legs and my arms. Thinking more length than just turning this into a back bend. My legs are squeezing towards each other. I'm pretending that that block is still in between my thighs. Couple more breaths here. Option here, you can either interlace your fingers and go a little higher, or if you want more of a challenge, your arms can reach overhead. Your option, I'm going to interlace my fingers, get a little bit of a lift here. Exhale, bring it on down. Windshield wiper your legs, let that go. Press up and back, downward facing dog. Paddle your feet out for a sec. With an inhale, lift your right leg up to the sky, one-legged dog. We're going to step through into a lunge, but I want this transition to the lunge to be slow and methodical. So as I bend my knee to bring it through, I'm slowly shifting forward as I draw my knee into my belly. I'm actually even going to round up a little bit as I come forward. Still, how high can I bring my knee into my belly? It's a lot of core action happening here, as well as pressing away through my shoulders. And then I'm going to see how far can I bring that foot forward before I bring it down. If you need a few steps, by all means take them. Before I lift up, I'm going to press the ground away. Feel that activation through my legs before I lift up into my high lunge. Big breath, reach. With my exhale, I'm going to bend that knee a little deeper. Reach a little higher. Really make sure you're pressing firmly through this back leg, thinking about lifting this back thigh. Just like when we were in the low version of the lunge, same energetic feeling you want to find in high lunge. If you can bend your knee a little more. One more breath here. And we're going to open up Warrior Two. So take a second in your Warrior Two to adjust your stance in any way you need. My right knee is bending, my left foot is long, foot turned parallel with the short side of the mat. So what happens if I don't have a long enough stance in Warrior Two is my knee will end up kind of going over my knee, or my knee will end up going over my foot, or I just won't go as high. So, if going lower doesn't work in your body, then by all means shorten your stance. But if you want to challenge yourself a little more, get that longer stance. See if you can drop down and find that 90-degree angle. Back leg, you have that inner thigh that's rotating in, finding space in your inner thigh and your hips. Front leg, you have the opposite action happening. Your outer hip is wrapping around, supporting your hip. See if you can bend a little more. You really want to feel that outer hip working here. On both legs, the feet have that spread apart feeling like your whole entire foot is engaged. Arms reach out to the side, soft gaze over your right arm. In these longer holds, you have a lot of thoughts that come up in your head. Ones that are, will kind of just pop up with the discomfort, with, just being like, what am I doing? And remember, you get to have the choice of how you engage with those thoughts. Are they telling you useful information? Maybe you need to come out a little bit. Or can you soften into them and challenge yourself to hold a little bit longer? The deeper you go, the harder this will become. You will feel your leg working very hard. One more breath here. And exhale, go ahead and lift up. Give yourself a little break because those long holds really do get intense, especially on that front working leg. We're coming back into Warrior Two because now we're going to extend our warrior. So the trick with the extended warrior is often you'll start to lift out of this front leg, but we want to keep that bend. And I know we just had a long hold in Warrior Two, so you're probably definitely feeling this. Hand goes to thigh or down past your knee, depending on how far you want to take this. 2 more breaths. Exhale, legs straighten. We're going to go into triangle pose next. So I'm going to shorten my stance just slightly for triangle. And I'm going to invite you to use a block, but you can also use your leg or the mat. I'm going to put my block right here on the outside of my foot. Arms reach out to the side. And again, with this leg, I'm thinking about that thigh turning in. I actually want to send my butt back a little bit so that I can access the space in my hip. With this leg, I'm actually going to keep it a little bit bent so I can reach over, coming down to my block. Once I find that length in my spine and I find my block, then I'm going to press the ground away to straighten my leg. Once I have that kind of strong foundation, then my arm opens up. Big inhale, finding that space, and with that exhale, I can really work it into that twist. I'm still thinking pressing this hip back, keeping that length. This one's still wrapping around, supporting me with that outer hip. Going for the longer hold here, we're going to go for a few more breaths. So when you do these longer holds, you can start to really think about where do I hold my weight in this? Where do I find the most comfort? Where do I find the most discomfort? And then play with it. Play with shifting around. Play with experimenting where your hands go, where your arm up top goes. These long holds allow us to really dive in to what each posture can be for each of us. And how we can change it to fit our needs on any given day. We're going to do one more breath here. Slowly rise up to center. Foot's going to rotate in. I'm going to shift my feet in just slightly. So now both feet are facing forward. I'm going to kind of go back on my heels and just slightly turn both feet out. So they're both kind of coming out, maybe about 45 degrees. It's really going to depend on your hips and your level of comfort here. I'm going to send my knees out over my toes, coming into goddess pose. So knees out wide, feet out wide, tailbone heavy, spine long, arms reach out, reach overhead, interlace, and press away. So here in goddess pose, it's sort of like what we did in warrior two, but now both of our legs are in this bent position. How low can you hold this? So remember, we're going to hold this for a while, so if you need to come out, you can adjust as needed, but challenge yourself with how low you can hold this position. Finding those breaths that expand into your back ribs, into your side. Can you still find a full breath in this demanding position? If you can't, that's a sign to come out a little bit. One more breath. Exhale all the way back up. Turning back, high lunge. Stepping forward. So from here, we're going to go into a couple of balance positions, starting with tree pose. And we're going to be working on our left leg for tree pose. So I'm pressing the ground away with my left leg to already lengthen out through that hip. My right leg is already drawing up. So I bring it up, maybe to my ankle, my shin, or my inner thigh. Finding that soft gaze. Foot into leg, leg into foot, spine long. And again here with balance, you get to kind of work on that kind of shift of your weight over your foot. One of the things I've noticed is when it's hard to find balance, sometimes it is because maybe you're too far forward or too far back on your foot. So see if you can find that place that we practiced at the beginning where you're kind of stacked right over the center of your foot. Where your ankle, hip, pelvis, ribs, your arms lift up. Can you still find that full breath that expands into your back ribs? and you find ease within this position. Maybe you think about letting your toes not grip so much. Maybe your jaw releases. Maybe it's just your thoughts that soften. One more breath. And we're going to take this into eagle pose. So you can either come to the ground, take a quick break, or you can start to slide that across right away. Leg wraps around thigh as you sit back down in to eagle. So you can keep your foot here, or if you can, so not every body can make this happen, you can wrap your foot all the way around. Arms come out, right under left. And again, they can be here, they can be here, or you can intertwine them as well. Sit back and down a little more. Again, finding that steadiness of your breath, of your gaze, feeling your legs squeeze together to support you. Noticing the places that have to hold and letting go of the places that don't need to. One more breath here. As you exhale, release, open it up. Release it out, walk it out. Come to the front of your mat. We're going to do the whole thing on the other side. So, starting with coming into our chair pose. We're not going to use the block this time, but I want you to think about that drawing in of your legs that we did with the block. Sitting back and down. Squeezing your legs together. Exhale, release your hands to the ground. Step back, downward facing dog. This time your left foot lifts up, one-legged dog. As we come forward, we're practicing to do a transition very slowly as well. How mindful can we be in this transition? As we start to shift forward, I have to press the ground away with my arms. I have to draw the knee in. It's this coordination of my core, my arms, my hips. Slow, 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 until I step that foot through. Maybe it takes a couple of steps. Before I lift up into high lunge, I'm pressing into the ground. I'm already finding this muscle energy that's going to support me as I come up into high lunge. Back foot is pressing away, front knee is bending. If I can, I'll lower a little more. Two more breaths. And open up, warrior two, left leg in front. Right leg reaches long behind, foot is parallel with the short edge of the mat. Again, play with your stance. Challenge yourself to have a little bit longer of a stance and really sink down into that 90-degree position. This will be challenging on your thighs. Arms reach long. Again, now it's the right leg. The inside thigh is pushing back. The left leg, the outer hip is wrapping around. Arms reach long. Soft gaze over your left fingers. Here in your warrior two, as we hold it for an extended period of time, notice the places that need to hold. Our legs, our hips, shoulders as our arms extend out, and let go of those places that don't need it. Our toes don't need to grip. We should be able to lift our toes off the ground. Our shoulders shouldn't be up here. They should actually be a little soft. Like I could even go into a wave, right? I should feel like my neck isn't holding tension. The skin in my face is soft. But I can still find a full breath. One more breath here. And straighten that leg just for a second. We're going to go into extended warrior on the other side. So back down into warrior two, coming into extended warrior, reaching overhead. Remembering to keep that front leg bent. 2 more breaths here. And release it on up. Grab your block if you use one on the other side. Put it in the position that works for you. Arms out to the side, legs straight. We start to hinge into our triangles. Remember, I'm allowing space for this hip to go back. My thigh is turning in. On this one, I'm going to keep it slightly bent so I can come down. But then I'm going to press my foot into the ground, wrapping this hip around as I push up. So again, we have that opposite reaction on both legs. I'm pulling, pushing in, I'm wrapping around. Arm lifts up towards the sky. With each inhale, I'm sending my breath into my ribs, finding length through my spine. With each exhale, I'm finding that connection with my core. I'm seeing if I can go a little more into this. Allow yourself to be curious about where you feel this and how it changes when you shift even slightly. Maybe that shift is maybe a little bit of my hips going back a little more. Maybe it's my arm coming overhead. Maybe it's just how far down my other arm is positioned. Allow yourself to explore this pose in ways you don't necessarily get to do when you just do it for a breath or two. I'm going to do 2 more breaths here. So your next exhale, all the way up to standing. Feet turn forward. And this time we're going to go into wide-legged standing forward bend. So my toes are going to stay forward. I'm going to inhale, lengthen through my spine. Exhale, come forward. Bringing my hands to the ground, to a block, whatever suits your body. Take a second to inhale, lengthen. Exhale, coming even more into this. Allow your knees to be a little soft here, especially if you tend to hyperextend. See if you can find just a little slight bend in your knees that allows you to really pull up through your thighs. So you're almost thinking like your feet are like straws and they're drawing the ground up. Two more breaths here. And inhale, lift halfway, extend your spine, push your hips back, hands to hips, all the way up to stand. Shift back in to your high lunge on your left side. Step forward. We're going to go into our balancing postures on this side. So this time we're going to balance on our right side. I'm pressing the ground away with my right leg, finding that activation all the way up my side. Left leg goes to ankle, shin, or all the way up to your thigh. Hands to heart center. Standing leg pushes the ground away. Gaze is soft and steady. Can I still find that full breath? If I can find my steadiness and my full breath, maybe my arms reach up. Maybe you sway around in the wind a little bit. And if you fall out, that's okay. That's part of the fun of balancing postures. So we get to fall out of them, come back in, and just test. Test where can I do this? It's safe to fall out of tree pose. And it's okay to come back in. One more breath here. And you can either give yourself a quick break or wrapping my left leg around, coming into eagle. So left leg is wrapping around right, left arm is over top of right. As I sit down into eagle pose. My legs are squeezing together. And if you fall out, that's okay. One more breath. And come on out. Release it out. Shift your hips, wiggle them around. Maybe twist your ankles. Sometimes those extended balancing poses can give you a little bit of a foot cramp. So feel free to kind of shift your ankles around. And we're going to come down to the mat now and start to cool down. So come on down to your mat. Grab your block. Lay all the way on your back, feet bent in. Grab your block and put it between your legs like we practiced with chair pose. We're going to do bridge pose with the block between our legs. So before we even lift up into bridge, squeeze your thighs together. Feel that squish on the block. You want to keep that as you lift your hips up into bridge pose. So right now I'm more in just a regular hip bridge versus a yoga bridge. My pelvis and my ribs are kind of in line. And if you can stay here and really work on strengthening your glutes, or if you want more of a back bend, you can start to shift onto your shoulders a little more, coming in to Setu Bandha Yoga Bridge. Wherever you're at, keep squeezing that block, keep pushing your knees out over your legs. Another option here would be to interlace your hands if that's comfortable. I'm actually going to keep mine on the ground today. Neck is long, chin is up. You don't want your chin tucked into your chest in this position. Keep lifting through your hips. Another longer hold here. So with each inhale, see if you can find that rib cage expansion. With each exhale, really squeeze the block. Feel your core engage. Three more breaths here. Last one. Release it on down. Put your block off to the side. Give yourself a little hug. And bring your feet back down to the ground. Soles in together, knees out wide. We're going into Supta Baddha Konasana, or reclined bound angle. So if this doesn't feel comfortable in your body, go ahead and do just regular bound angle where you're sitting up. But this one is just really kind of a passive release, allowing our thighs to kind of just drop open. It can be comfortable to put a block under your knees on each side. That can give you a little more support if you like. But otherwise, bring your soles of your feet together, push them in, arms out, and just allow gravity to pull your thighs down. Allow your breath to be soft. You can go ahead and close your eyes here and tune into the different sensations. When you close your eyes, you can start to just explore your inner landscape a little more. Maybe noticing some differences side to side. Noticing the quality of your breath. One more breath here. And bring your knees together. Now we're going to do the opposite of that. So we're actually going to walk our feet wide. and our knees are going to come together. So when we did Supta Baddha Konasana, it was a lot of kind of opening up through the kind of external rotation. We're going to allow an internal rotation stretch. So feet are wider than our mat, knees come together. And depending on, what your anatomy is like, maybe you go out further, maybe you go out less, but just bringing your knees together and feeling the stretch kind of right around in here. We want to open up both directions. We don't just want to open up into this externally rotated position. One more breath here. Release it on down. Go ahead and grab your strap if you have one, or your belt or towel. Whatever you might have that's handy to lasso your foot. Left leg is going to be long to the ground. And you want to keep this leg slightly active because you want to keep it pressing into the ground and not just flippity flopping around while we stretch our right leg. So left leg is long. I lasso around my right foot. I push the strap away as I straighten my leg. With my inhale, I'm sending that air into my back, into my side waist, and with my exhale, connecting to my core as I lift up more. Still pressing that heel away. And whether your leg is straight or not, that's okay. You can just be down here, and this might be enough stretch for you. But keep pressing your foot into the strap, lifting that heel. I'll stay here for a few more breaths. And the more I kind of pull back on my upper foot and extend out through my heel, I might get a really nice stretch through my calf muscle as well. Two more breaths here. And from here, I'm going to take both straps into my right hand. My right leg is going to turn out to the side as I open up. Again, notice as you open up, this left hip really kind of rolls in, and just come to where you can still keep that left hip on the ground. So there's a little bit of engagement through this left side waist that you have to be mindful of to keep yourself from rotating over. Actually, I'm going to grab this with my left hand, not my right. Opening up into my inner thigh. One more breath here. And exhale. I'm pulling it back up. Switching it over. Lengthening again before I bring it across my body. And then this one you can let this hip roll up a bit as you press the strap away. The more kind of length you can find through your heel as you do this, you're really going to feel this down, all through your outer hip, down your IT band. Again, find that breath that fully inflates your side waist, your ribs. And allow your exhale to bring more engagement. One more breath. And bring it back up. We're going to switch to the other side. Slowly, slowly, slowly lower your right leg. And you bring it down to the ground. Notice if maybe it feels a little longer, a little more open and relaxed. So let's do the same thing to our left leg. Right leg is nice and long, pressing into the ground. I lasso my left foot. Big inhale. I press my foot away. And you can choose your adventure with where your hand is on these straps. And I get here, I inhale, fill into my back, fill into my side waist. Exhale, engage my core as I pull this foot up even higher. Pressing through that heel. The more I can connect to this core stability, the more I'm going to allow the back of my leg to release. The more I can control this range of motion as well. Pressing through my heel, 2 more breaths here. Now I'm going to turn that foot out, bringing it over to the side, reaching that leg long, being aware of what my right hip is up to. If I notice it starting to lift, I could even help it. I'm going to give it a little press, remind my side waist to engage to pull it down. One more breath here. Pulling it back up, going to the other direction. So now I'm thinking of turning my foot down towards the ground as I come long across. Pushing through that heel. The more I kind of push through that heel, lift through this leg, the more I can intensify the stretch that goes all the way down my hip, all the way down my IT band. So again, you get to choose how intense this gets for you. One more breath here. Exhale, bring it back up to center. Unlasso your foot. Slowly bring it down. Wiggle it out. Bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little hug. Rock your hips around. Roll side to side. Just do a little massage on your back. Before you extend your legs long, arms out to the side, your feet relax, arms relax. Maybe turn your light down low. So you settle into your final resting pose, Shavasana. Allowing yourself to integrate all these movements we just did. Reaping the benefits of those long holds, building strength, building stamina, building resilience. Connecting to ourselves, connecting to these poses in a deeper way. Allow yourself to remain in Shavasana for several minutes. Just being guided by your breath. Finding a moment of deep relaxation and down regulation. Knowing that you've moved your body in nourishing ways. Thank you for joining me. Sorry for the technical interruptions today. I hope to see you again on the mat soon. Thank you. Namaste.